Welcome back to the High Point Podcast. I am your host at Rick High Jr. Give me 1 second here. It's better. Can you even see it? Take it down a notch. That is way too bright, huh? Much better. I think you could see it a little bit better now, huh? A little HP pod. Nice little Christmas gift from my wife. All right. So this is the first pod that I'm running solo. Unfortunately, after the holidays, and then, things getting piled up in terms of scheduling, and then Jacob, um, family issues, has to step aside for a bit, which is totally fine. So we're gonna do things a little bit solo. So it's gonna be me. First things we'll talk about. Obviously, we haven't posted in about a month or so. I think the 18th of December was our last pod. So we can talk about some of the biggest things being a lot of the coaching vacancies. Outside of that, we'll go ahead and talk about the first round wildcard weekend. I do have some notes here from who I picked prior. I mean, you're going to have to take my word on it. I don't have anything, obviously we didn't post prior to wildcard weekend. So it's just based purely off of what I'm saying here. I got some stuff wrong, but it'll just be interesting to kind of review some of the notes that I took and see how that actually played out. So yeah, we'll jump right into it. So first, with the coaching vacancies, there are several out, kind of unexpected. I don't think we were thinking this many people would be let go. For example, I think Harbaugh, I was expecting to stay. Stefanski, I was expecting to stay. Tomlin, simply because of Pittsburgh Steelers have only had like 4 head coaches in their entire history. So I wasn't expecting them to just let go of Tomlin, right? And then, we have Mike McDaniel. That one's an interesting one to me because I know I've been kind of ragging on him all year, but I still think he was the right coach in Miami. So to see him, being let go was unexpected. But the total list, like I said, Harbaugh, Gannon at Arizona, Morris at Atlanta, Stefanski at Cleveland, Pete Carroll at Las Vegas. Of course, early in the season, Brian Daboll at Callahan at Tennessee, Spagnuolo, Clint Kubiak and Matt Nagy were people that I wrote down that were OCs that could potentially get the open head coaching vacancies. I'm not sure how a lot of these will play out, obviously, but there's some where I'm just curious because there's certain coaches here that I think fit the vibe of some of the open vacancies. Just off the top of my head, for some reason, I feel like Harbaugh would do really well coaching this Cleveland team with what they have now, what he's been able to deal with in the past, knowing how to coach around somebody like Lamar Jackson, being able to translate that with Shador, I think would actually be really helpful. Then we have people like Tomlin. He came out recently and said, I'd love to go somewhere with warmer weather. And I'm thinking, okay, great. That leaves us Arizona, Miami, maybe Tennessee, I guess. I think Miami could work. I think that he'd be able to do really well with that roster. So outside of that, I'm not sure. I don't want to jump in too much here. I'm not going to pretend like I know too much about each of these individual coaches and what their pros and cons are, where they would head to next. That would be exciting. So I'll just leave it at that. I think as the situation evolves more and more, and seeing where these guys get placed, how they'll affect their those will be really interesting. But nonetheless, I think jumping straight into the wild card games. First one, we'll say Rams at Panthers here. Rams initially went in as a 10.5 point favorite. To me, and these are notes that I wrote prior to the game. I put difference at QB is too big. Despite Carolina's leaps this year, the Rams outmatch on both sides of the ball. Although Panthers may be able to hang/cover, but ultimately lose. Sure enough, that was the case. I like this Panthers team. I think they can build off some of that momentum next year. It'll be really interesting to see that evolve. Jacob would hate me saying this. I like Bryce Young. I think he makes sense there. The amount of grit and tenacity they showed down the stretch, how they were able to have a lot of comeback wins just throughout the season was really impressive. So, seeing how this team can improve next year after, you get some of their key players with more experience under their belt. Tet obviously was really impressive this year. Coker in this last game was really impressive. So it'll be interesting how that chemistry develops and how they're able to get better over time. Packers and Bears. So I picked the Bears here as well. So far 2 of 2. I put that the passing game makes a difference here. The Packers were a 1.5-point favorite going into this. I think that Chicago and their offense overwhelms Green Bay. Chicago was on a 2-game losing streak going in, Green Bay 4-game losing streak going in. And then I put, despite a bottom third defense, as in, they're in the bottom 10 teams in the NFL in terms of defense. They have 23 interceptions on the season, the most takeaways. And, I don't think that ended up making a difference in this situation. I really thought that Jordan Love was going to struggle a lot more than he did. He was lighting it up. Fortunately, the Bears were lighting it up even more. So yeah, I think that one will be, seeing what Caleb was able to do in clutch moments. That for me, biases aside because of the Texans, that was the most exciting game of the wild card weekend. I just, from start to finish thinking, oh, they're getting blown out. This thing is over. Watching Jordan Love and the Packers just completely light it up. I was like, damn, okay. Like I was wrong here. They're going to, run through the playoffs. And then Chicago just little by little, just chipping away, finds a way to come back and overcome. Really impressive. Right now for me on the NFC side, they're the favorites. I think eventually Sam Darnold's going to show his mistakes. I think we saw the mistakes of the Rams in the previous game, and the next game we're talking about, the Niners. That one scares me too. I think there are just some, especially with George Kittle out now. I just don't see teams as complete as the Bears. As much crap as they've gotten throughout this entire year, including on this very podcast from Jacob. So, good luck to them moving forward. That'll be really fun to see. Caleb Williams getting into spats with Lil Wayne on Twitter. He's just been really good all season. For the most part, just a really impressive player top to bottom. And all those promises he made in the first year of, telling his punter that he'll never have to punt and, making all these like outrageous statements, they're starting to come true. He's building that momentum. He has an established core here in Chicago. And, I think that this will stay together for quite some time. I think the Bears are going to be a force to be reckoned with over the next few years. Niners and Eagles. So this game, I didn't watch too much of just because, frankly, it was boring to me. The notes that I had the Eagles winning. So this was my first loss of the weekend. I put Eagles championship pedigree. Eagles championship pedigree matters, but San Francisco is one where it gets dicey since they've had big moments in recent years as well. Turns out true. I thought that Philadelphia would be able to overcome this. I thought, their championship pedigree will prove stout in this moment. I don't think, all this hoopla throughout the entire year of A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts not being on the same page and, just the bickering back and forth about the offense in itself. I was like, come playoff time, everything will clear up. Everything will be fine. I was wrong. Yeah, they just weren't able to get it together. There were several A.J. Brown passes where I'm like, hit your hands or a damn near hit your hands. You need to catch that ball. Speaking from somebody that was a terrible wide receiver, terrible tight end in high school. That was the one thing that always stuck with me is if it hits your hands, you got to catch it. So, once you get up to that level in the NFL, I think that rule, or at least that saying, becomes more true and true and true as time goes on. Hits your hand, you got to catch it. Sorry, A.J. Brown. It's not a good look. I imagine there's some things that could have gone differently here that would prove Eagles, being the victors. But unfortunately, Niners, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, everybody, the defense. Wow, the defense. They really proved why they're in the position that they're in. Because I think with the laundry list of injuries that they've had throughout the season was really going to wear down on them at the end of the season and then completely kill any momentum going into the playoffs. That was wrong. They're able to string things together. It will be fun to see how they fare in their next game. I believe against Seattle. So that'll be fun. Bills and Jags. So this one was a fun one. I watched this one from start to finish as well. There was a lot of games that were really, almost every single game actually was pretty close throughout the entire game, with Patriots pulling away from the Chargers at the end of the game and Texans really pulling away from the Steelers in the fourth quarter. But going back to Bills and Jags, Bills were 1.5 point favorites. Jags outright will win plus more. I thought they were going to hang 100 on these guys. I put number one rushing offense versus number one rushing defense is going to be fun to see. Jacoby Myers being a significant game changer here as well. Since being traded to Jacksonville, they've only lost once. It was in the very first game that he played as a Jacksonville Jaguar. And, only being there maybe a third of their season, having such an impact that he had, I'm thinking, okay, this guy's going to be the X factor. He's the game changer that can, potentially win them a game. I mean, he had the third most receiving yards for their team, and he only played a third of the season on that team. But I was wrong. Bills end up taking this one. Josh Allen was fantastic down the stretch, really clutch, and Jags turned out to be maybe some paper tigers. I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, Bills are still damn good. It's not like Bills were pushovers and Jags absolutely should have won this game and somehow choked it. No, Bills are still really damn good. I wouldn't be surprised if they're I didn't check odds, prior to wild card weekend. I still haven't checked them now. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bills were the favorite or second favorite to win the AFC, simply because Josh Allen, right? And then we don't have a Lamar Jackson. We don't have a Patrick Mahomes. We don't have any credible threat at quarterback that's proven, I should say. Obviously, Drake May is good, right? Before the Chargers lost, Justin Herbert, really good. CJ Stroud, good. Aaron Rodgers, tons of history and very, very good Hall of Fame career. So it's not like there's nobody. It's just either everybody is too young, or in the one case with Aaron Rodgers, too old. So the Bills and Josh Allen, I would think, people are looking at this saying, if there's going to be a year for Josh Allen to do it, it's this one. Oh, wow. So all really close, and not what I was expecting. Patriots are plus 200 to win the AFC, Denver plus 250, Buffalo plus 270, and then Texans plus 360. I'm shocked at that. I know Denver has the one seed. Is it crazy to say I'm not scared of them? There just hasn't been anything that I've thought, yeah, they're going to take it to every single team that they play. They've played up and down to their competition. They barely squeaked out a win against the Raiders early November. I think it was like 10-7 on a Thursday night game. It was awful. Patriots, I'm a little bit more scared of them. I think Drake May is good. I think they've really figured out how that team it should function and develop. So that one I get. I was a little surprised that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills have the third highest odds. Moving over to NFC, we got Seattle at plus 115, Rams at plus 165, Bears at plus 550, Niners at plus 1,000. Also shocked. I would take Bears in this situation. I'm a little scared of Darnold making mistakes. I think there are very few instances where Super Bowl winners have been able to cover up their quarterback's mistakes, or hell, even Super Bowl contenders, not even necessarily winners. The one that comes to mind is like Rex Grossman with the Bears, where, come on, like he may have been a bottom 5 quarterback that season, purely based on statistics, his touchdown to interception ratio. He was not good, and they were able to march all the way to the Super Bowl. Lost to Peyton, and Peyton finally gets his ring. But yeah, I don't see. I see Darnold's not necessarily that bad. Don't get me wrong. I still think Darnold's really good. I'm just a little worried that he's not to the caliber that he needs to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I hope I'm proven wrong, because I really like this Seattle Seahawks team. I'd like to see them or the Bears, mainly just because we've seen the Rams and the Niners in Super Bowls recently in the last 5 years. On the AFC side, give me anybody. Anybody is not Kansas City, right? So, they're fun. Obviously, I'm rooting for my Texans. That would be best case scenario. But out of the 3 remaining, I think, I want to see Josh Allen, and I want to see him get a ring and leave his legacy. At the very least, if he makes the Super Bowl, build something from that, right? Give it your best shot once you're there, right? If somehow the Buffalo Bills, I don't know who they end up playing in the Super Bowl, but let's say they get there and it's a game where Allen leaves everything on the line, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, that type of shit, and then they still lose. That's still something to hang your hat on. I mean, of all people, Josh Allen has time and time again, once he gets to the playoffs, been in situations where he leads a comeback or he takes his team and gets them to overtime, and then they get screwed by their defense and he never gets the ball back in his hands. I could think of off the top of my head 2 times, but I think it's probably happened like 3 or 4 where he just simply doesn't get the ball back because of overtime rules. So, I'd love to see him add a little bit more to his legacy. That'll be really fun to see. Okay, so obviously with my co-host Jacob out of pocket, we're doing a little bit more of a shorter episode. One thing we'll do here is we're going to put the AFC logos in a tier list. So simply exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to bring up AFC logos and we're going to put them all into a tier list based on what we think about them. Now, I'm probably a little too annoying in how I approach this. I think like just in my friend group, I feel like I post way too much about, oh, I really like these uniforms, or oh, I really like, these, I like this color scheme for this team. A little bit more on on the style aspect, which might be annoying. I don't care. I love it. I think it's a big part of the game. Brings a lot to the fandom, a lot of excitement to the game. So we're just going to be basing this off the logo itself as their current logo, and just seeing how things lie. I would love to hear comments. I would love to hear, what other people think about these rankings, where I'm putting them, what they would change. Am I putting your team too low? Am I putting other teams too high? Let me know. We're not gonna go in any sort of order here. I have them all lined up by division. Actually, you know what? Yeah, let's just keep it by division. So we'll start at the top here with the Denver Broncos. This one is a very nice logo. I actually am a huge fan of it. I feel like it's since the redesign has been fantastic. I can't think of many logos that I like better. I think this one belongs in S. I think it's not only is it the color combo, but this Bronco, this horse just looks so fierce, and the way he's angled. I think, even, the orange eyes that he has really brings a lot to this logo. And yeah, I think it's a really tough logo. Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to be honest. Any of them that are just, you know, logo with letters, letters are boring to me. It depends. I mean, obviously, like there's some where it looks really good. It looks really clean, but to me, it's I know it's iconic because, all these teams have been around for so long. It always strikes me as interesting whenever there's like a new football league, the USFL, for example, or is it UFL? I don't know, XFL, all these different teams. They come up with these teams, new logos, new names, all that stuff. And I don't know what it is, but whenever I see them, it's like none of this looks good. Like none of it sticks, none of it affects me. And I don't know. I'm trying to you know, dissociate from this completely obvious bias, and I'm curious if I not like these logos simply because these teams haven't built up history yet like the NFL has, or are they just actually bad logos? So, when I look at this Kansas City logo, I realize that it's probably more of the former. It's literally because those teams haven't built up any cachet. They aren't household names. They're not the NFL, right? Because I look at this Kansas City logo and I'm like, that's C tier at best. It's plain. It's, you know, and I would like to see, I know, you know, especially in the NFL side, they keep their logos around forever. They don't do a ton of changing. I feel like if you change your logo, it's pretty drastic, which we'll get to when we talk about like Miami, Jacksonville, Tennessee. But with Kansas City, I would love to see just a touch of yellow in the logo itself. Is that crazy to ask? I don't know. I don't know. Raiders. Raiders is really solid. It's been around forever. Like this, if we're talking about like the plunderers, pirates, Raiders, Buccaneers, those type of teams, I think this is the best one. I like the crossed swords. I like it as a crest versus on the flag, like the Buccaneers. And I don't know. I'd love to. I don't even know the history of the logo. I don't know if this guy's based on somebody or if this is just, you know, they they drew a guy and that's it. But I really like this logo. I always have it. It seems it's very clean. Maybe some of my bias is showing here that I like the black, white, and silver because I'm a San Antonio Spurs fan, but I've just always thought it was a really nice logo. Okay, the Chargers. I think they had a mild rebrand here. It was still the Bolt, but they added the baby blue and the white on the outside, and they used to have that navy. And I'm glad they brought back the navy uniforms this year. I thought those were really crisp. Um, I, I, I really, it just, it harkens back to the Ladainian Tomlinson days, and you just reminisce. I think this is, despite being a very simple logo, I think it's very nice. I think that's a solid B. I think it's fine to put in B. It's nothing too crazy. It's 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 good. It's good. It's unique. The Cincinnati Bengals. So when they had the roaring tiger logo, I loved it. It was great. Then they moved to this big block B with the tiger stripes, and that absolutely killed it for me. I don't like this logo. I wish they would bring back the roaring tiger in some form or fashion. I thought it looked way better, and it felt, you know, more to the identity of the team versus just a letter. Again, that's going to be something that reoccurs for me in this because I just don't like letters as logos. I think it takes away individuality unless you do something fun with it and make it like a different font. I don't know, something different. I don't like letters. I don't like word marks. And then I'm going to immediately contradict myself because I see the Steelers and I don't know what it is about it. Uh, Maybe it's the like stencil lettering that they usually use. I don't think it is on this one, but on the terrible towel where it has the I don't even know if it's called that, but it's like, basically if you were to go to a Home Depot and buy the stencils to put your numbers on your curb in front of your house, it looks like that font, right? Like stencil. I love when they do that on the terrible towels, and I'm sure there's somebody that can give me more history around why they have the red and the blue versus just being black and yellow. I don't care too much. It's still a beautiful logo. There's something about this one that always just inherently makes me think of football. I know that sounds probably stupid and obvious because it's an NFL team, it's an NFL logo, but there's something about this one where I'm like, if I saw this anywhere else, it wouldn't feel right. But for Pittsburgh, for them, I just really like this logo. For me, I think this one goes in A. It's unique, and I, you know, I think the best way to put it because they're the Steelers, this logo is interesting, right? They're not a bird team. They're not a cat team. They're not a horse team in this situation, right? Or an ungulate, I think it's called. So they can really grab a lot of uniqueness. They can make something that nobody else in the league has. Granted, maybe they could do something. They could do something else. They could make it more fun. They can do their old logo with the guy that's like kicking a football off of a steel beam. I like that one a lot too. Awesome retro logo. But yeah, this feels like NFL football to me. Top tier logo. I really like it. Baltimore bird logo. This one's good despite the B, and this is exactly what I mean. I have no issue with it if it's integrated into the logo really nicely, and this one is. Uh, Not to mention red eyes is super intimidating. I really like their logo. I'm going to keep it right here in A as well. Cleveland Browns. Pains me to say this because my wife has family from Cleveland area. They're big Browns fans. This sucks. What are we thinking? What are we doing here? It's a helmet. It is a helmet logo. I don't see how anybody could stand by this logo. Bring back I think his name's Brownie, the little elf guy. Start using the like bulldog secondary logo more often. Use that as your primary. I'm fine with that. But just the helmet sucks. Like, give it up. I feel like they're trying to make it a part of their identity where they're, oh yeah, we're the team that's the helmet. It, I don't like it. Miami Dolphins, a lot more modern after the rebrand. I can't even remember when that was. I want to say it was like early or mid 2000s. Yeah, obviously the old one, which to me immediately I think of Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. I think of Dan Marino, and I think of the dolphin wearing the helmet on the logo. That one's really cool. This one they modernized it. I hated it at first, but it's kind of grown on me. I like the sunburst in the back. I like the way he swoops really nicely. I'm gonna keep this one in B. I think that's where it belongs. I think it's a good, not great logo. The Buffalo Bills. Call me crazy. I like that logo too. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the beam coming out of the horn. I've always thought that this one was a really clean logo as well. And out of the various horse, bull, um, type of, like I said, ungulates, out of those, I think it's the best one. So I'm gonna stick it in S tier, right up here with the Broncos. I think those are both really good logos. Patriots. Feel like the Patriots fandom hated this one when it first came out, and then Tom Brady happened, and this kind of defines the Tom Brady era of the Patriots, and now people like it, right? Before they had, I think his name's Patriot Pat. I want to say that's his name. I know people liked him a lot, and that's totally fair. You know, I thought that was a really cool. It looks like a beer logo, to be honest, like a Sam Adams logo. But this new one, still really good. I think my bias is showing here, and I want to put it up at A because of the history that it's brought along with it, with the Tom Brady era. But if I'm trying to be unbiased, I think B. I think B is fine. The Jets logo. So the Jets logo, I don't like this one either, and I think it's a situation where it's like it wasn't good prior, and they kind of did this thing where they wanted to do like a modern retro, right? Which, whenever teams will decide, okay, this is obviously a modern jersey or a modern cut of a jersey, but we're going to use the retro logo or the retro colors or something like that, right? And it just doesn't work. That's what they did here with this logo. I think the logo is lazy. I think it's boring. It's a shame because green is my favorite color. But yeah, I just never really liked it. I think D tier is fine for this one. Jacksonville. So contrary to most, I think I actually like the redesign better than the original logo that they had when they came out as an expansion team. I know people like that one and it reminds them of Maurice Jones-Drew, I'm sure. I think this one nailed it. I mean, I know it's a little bit more like cat-like. I feel like the other one looked like I don't know, like a muscle cat, if that makes sense. Like think of just like a just completely swolled out cat. That's kind of what the old logo looked like. And I think this one, yeah, it looks a little bit more like a cat, like a real cat, like a feline. And I like it though. I think like with the swooped ears, it looks more like a jaguar, obviously. And then adding in the teal for the tongue, the eye, and the nose. Nose really more on the shading than the actual color itself. I think it looks nice. I I think people hate on this one because it's the Jags. Simply that. I don't think there's anything wrong with this logo. I think they hate it just because it's the Jags. For me, it's an A tier. I'm trying to remove my bias on this one, but the Texans. So I know their most recent rebrand, which was 2 years ago at this point, he made the red brighter and made the blue darker, almost to where it's black. You can barely tell on the logo itself. Obviously with uh, on field, right, with their the color of the jersey, color of the pants. You could tell it's dark blue. You tell it's like a really really dark navy. But the logo itself, nah, dude, it almost looks black. Not that I have a problem with that. I think like if this was black, white, and red, that'd be really clean. But that's just not how I've known the history of the Texans. That being said, I like the angle of him. I like that it's two different colors on each horn makes up the Texas flag. You using a bull as the mascot to represent Texas, I love it. Right? I think that's great. I think there's some things that could be different here that would make it better. It's hard for me though to put in words what those should actually be. So for me, I'm going to put it in B because it's a good, not great logo. Titans. So the Titans, the flying thumbtack. I know a lot of people hate on that logo. Exactly why? Because of what I called it, the flying thumbtack. I do kind of hate it. The only redeeming things here are, the stars representative of the Tennessee state flag. But other than that, the T, too much beveling, the fire, kind of odd, has really nothing to do with their identity or the persona of the team. I like the color schemes, which can't be mad at, right? Being a Texans fan, loving that baby blue color. Unfortunately, we don't have it. Well, we do now in our alternates, but obviously, what's the name? Bud Adams decided, hey, let's move the Oilers, and here they are, taking that beautiful baby blue. But everything else about this logo kind of sucks. It, I, I, I'm trying to remove my bias again because, again, I'm a Texans fan. This is the team that took away the Oilers, and they're within our division. So there's a lot of reasons for me to dislike this. Even if I try to remove that, I still feel like the logo sucks. For me, it's a C. It's not very good. And whoops. And I don't think it. I think they're about. I'd be happy if they did a rebrand. Not fully. I mean, obviously you can keep a lot of the elements you already have. I like their most recent uniform changes where they just kept it really clean. Right? It was there no weird piping down the side, no like blocking. It's just clean. Jerseys, clean pants. I like when teams do that when they have a really clean look. It does look a lot better with a lot more striking colors, right? Like a Green Bay, for example. They have their green jerseys, their yellow pants. That yeah, sure they have the piping down the sides, but like for the most part, because they have such a unique color scheme, I think that really helps out with their identity and with their persona and the history that they've built. There's few teams like that, right? Meanwhile, there's like 6 teams that are red, white, and blue. So yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see if they went through a rebrand, how far could they take that? I don't know if they would just want to completely change up the colors because I feel like that you're reinventing a whole new team, right? You got to keep some of what you had previously to really do a proper rebrand. And then, of course, the Indianapolis Colts. This is one where it's plain, it's simple. I don't hate it. I don't really like it though, right? There's nothing to say here. And because this Colts logo has been the same for so long, because it's so simple, it just makes me think of Peyton Manning and it makes me think of all the history that they've built. But if we're just talking about it as a logo, it's very simple, very clean, very plain. I think putting it in B is reasonable. So that's my logo tier list. Please give me as much crap as you want about it if you don't like it. I have the Broncos and the Bills in S tier. I have the Raiders, Steelers, Baltimore, and the Jaguars in A tier. Then I have the Chargers, Dolphins, Patriots, Texans, and Colts in B tier. I have the Chiefs and the Titans in C tier. I have the Bengals and Jets in D tier. And then bringing up the F tier, the Cleveland Browns. So that's it for that AFC logo tier list. We're going to play over here. Okay. We're going to do an immaculate grid for the NFL. Play these ones every now and then, and they're lots of fun. I'm a lot better at the NBA ones. I'll just be honest and straightforward. NBA, obviously, I feel like I'm in a way more of a fan, mainly just because I have a lot more connection to the Spurs than I do to the Texans, for example. But at the same time, because I don't have as much attachment to the Texans, I like to view the league as a whole. With the NBA, if I'm not watching the Spurs game, I'm not really watching, right? Like if it's, random Tuesday night and it's, the Bulls and the Wizards, I'm not going to watch that, man. But I'll watch every Thursday night game in football. I'll watch every Sunday night game, every Monday night game, whichever ones obviously are in my region. And then on top of that, I'll go back and watch any clips that I missed from games that weren't in my region, right? So I think I view NFL with a lot more excitement, but I for some reason know a lot more about the NBA like when it comes to these type of games. But we're gonna give it, we're gonna give it our best shot here. So at some point, I might just have to give up on them if I just don't know them. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I'm a ball knower. I think I might know more than my buddies. I think I might be at the top of the list there. I would be if any people that know me are watching this or listening to this and you would want to challenge me, I'm totally okay with that. Come on the show and we'll do some of these. First, we're doing the NFL Immaculate Grid, and how it works. You have these three categories up top and three along the side as well, and you basically just have to pick ones that line up. So, for example, the top left here for audio listeners, in the first column we have Baltimore, and in the first row we have Tennessee. So a player that's played for both Baltimore and Tennessee, obviously, right off the bat, I'm thinking of DeAndre Hopkins, and boom, there he is. You can see the percentage, right? Right now, it's showing 14.89, which means um, that's a pretty highly guessed person. Once it gets really granular, you'll you can get people that are like 0.05%. It's really crazy. I can do that with the NBA one. I cannot do that with the NFL one. So, for me, this game is going to be a little bit more about completion than it is about, you know, trying to get the best score here. Okay, so one award rookie of the year since 99. I don't know if, well, Derrick Henry, did he win rookie of the year whenever he was with Tennessee? And then, of course, no, he did not. Did Lamar Jackson? Am I trying to be too big brain about this? And it's actually not that difficult at all. It's just Lamar. No. Hmm. Okay. So somebody that has won Rookie of the Year since '99 for the Baltimore Ravens, or somebody that won it previously and then moved to the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think Flacco did, but maybe I'm wrong. Nope. Hmm. This is gross, but don't judge me. Did Ray Rice? Ray Rice didn't win Rookie of the Year. I don't even know who. I can't even think of people who have won Rookie of the Year. We're gonna pass that one for now. So, Tennessee and Kansas City. I want to say like Sammy Watkins, right? Did he play? I don't know if he played for Tennessee. No, he didn't. It might be staring me right in the face, but I'm gonna skip that one. This one's easy. This one's Mariota. I'm pretty sure that's going to be 39% people, of course, picked that one. Of course, that's literally one of the only players I could name that have played for both. I don't know if can you go back and guess again? Oh no, once you pick, you're kind of locked in. Rookie of the year, I'd be shocked. Did Mahomes? Mahomes must have won that, right? No, of course not. Okay, that one's going to be tough. This whole column right here. Maybe RG3's in here though. Robert Griffin. I mean, he did lead them to a conference championship as a rookie. Yeah, okay. So I'll take that. Oh, I only had a certain amount of guesses. I didn't even know that. I'm gonna go to unlimited mode. Um, you know what? No, I'm gonna give up. Man, you know what I'm gonna do though? I want to look up NFL rookie of the year by year. Because who could have been in that for this one here? Baltimore and Kansas City winning Rookie of the Year, or at least playing on those teams at some point since '99. So go back to '99. So yeah, I was right there with Washington with RG3. Then Baltimore, Terrell Suggs would have been there. That's a good one. Actually, that makes total sense. I don't know if there was any other Baltimore, unless it was other team or other players that had moved to Baltimore. Oh, Anquan Bolden. He played for Baltimore. Won it with Arizona in 2003, but I'm pretty sure he played for Baltimore at some point. Man, Technically, you know what? Technically, RG3 played for Baltimore as well. I could have used him there, and used Washington for Chase Young. What was the other team? Kansas City. Kansas City. Okay, Marcus Peters is on here. I think he might be the only one. I don't know if any of these other guys, you know, got traded or a free agent signed to Kansas City at any point. But if I'm wrong, tell me. Tell me in the comments. That was the Immaculate Grid. You saw how bad at this game I am. Okay, today's theme. Okay, so this is the NFL draft game, by the way. So this one, I think they typically do the draft name, right? 2017 draft in this case, and then you put them in order on when they were drafted. And what we have here is Ryan Ramczyk from the New Orleans Saints, Adoree Jackson from Tennessee, Jamal Adams with the Jets, Leonard Fournette with the Jaguars, and then Deshaun Watson with the Texans. Now, my initial thought here, I think I remember Jamal Adams going really high, and I believe Leonard Fournette was just off of a really good year at LSU. And then I want to say it was Deshaun Watson and then Adoree Jackson, Ryan Ramczyk. I'm going to submit and then we'll see how many I got right. It could just throw up a big fat 0. 3. Okay, I got 3 right. I'm curious if it's just simply switching Adoree Jackson and Ryan Ramczyk. No, okay, so that actually, those two were in the right place. God, when was Deshaun Watson? I don't think he was. Was he a number one? No. I feel like he was like, maybe he was like a top 5 pick or something. Okay, so if I got 3 right, then that means one of these 3 is in the correct place. So there's just 2 that I need to switch. I'm gonna maybe it's Deshaun and Leonard Fournette. No, okay, it's not. So that means would it be Deshaun Watson and Jamal Adams? 2. No. Okay, so that's wrong too. Leonard Fournette didn't go first overall, did he? Yeah, okay. I guess he did. He went number 4. Okay, so yeah, it was Leonard Fournette with the 4th pick in the 2017 draft, Jamal Adams at 6, Deshaun Watson at 12, Adoree Jackson at 18, and then Ryan Ramczyk at 32. Okay. 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 I was on the right path. I was just a little off. Okay. That is going to be your first and hopefully only solo pod here with the High Point Podcast. I'm going to go ahead and get into the picks that I am making here for this divisional round. And then from there, we'll go ahead and call it a day. So Saturday, 3:30, we have Buffalo Bills and the Denver Broncos matching up. Denver Broncos is a 1.5-point favorite. I am leaning towards the Broncos simply because they're at Mile High. I think they have just they play solid at home. I mean, you can say that for most playoff teams, obviously, but um, I really think the altitude makes a difference. I'd like to see Josh Allen come in there and win, but if I was putting money on it, I think Denver's defense and how they operate can pull Bo Nix across the finish line more than relying on Bo Nix to make some crazy plays. Buffalo Bills are going to be relying on Josh Allen, right? That's just how it's been, and that's how it's going to stay. The night game on Saturday is going to be the Niners and the Seahawks at 7 p.m. So Seahawks are 7-point favorites in this, and I think they come out of here with the win. I've had a lot of doubts about the 49ers throughout the year because of the injuries. I feel that Seattle has a little bit more of a complete team with less injuries, and they're playing in Seattle. The 12th man has been really good to them in the past. I don't know if it still hits like it did in the Legion of Boom days, but they've always done really well at home in the playoffs. Okay, the Sunday games. The early game, 2 p.m. That's going to be the Texans and the Patriots. Right now, the Patriots are a 3.5-point favorite. I am going to go with my homer pick here and pick my Texans to upset the Patriots. I really feel it in my gut here. And I think it's because despite Drake May having a borderline MVP season, I think the Texans have too much of an overwhelming defense no matter who they're playing. Obviously, in the previous game against the Steelers, it took a little while for the Steelers to kind of get worn down before we were able to start making some big plays, getting defensive touchdowns. We scored more on the defensive side of the ball than we did on the offense side of the ball almost. I think this may be one of the best defenses of all time. And the numbers can support that. I think Willie Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter are just disgusting for a quarterback to see. I don't think there's any quarterback that's like, yeah, that no problem. I think they genuinely give fits for everybody that we play. So I'm going to take the Texans here to upset the Patriots. NFC divisional round. This one is the night game at 5:30. That's going to be right now. The Rams are a 4-point favorite. However, I'm going to pick an upset here as well and go with the Bears at home. I don't know what it is about and look, obviously Vegas knows more than I do. Who am I, right? But the fact that the Rams they're a 4-point favorite in this case doesn't make sense to me with how they performed last game and how they kind of stuck around at the bottom with Carolina. Maybe that was more Carolina coming up to them versus them sinking down to Carolina. Stafford, I don't know, man. He's still really good. Again, another player that's in that conversation for MVP this year, but I think things are slowing down. And it seems like on the other side of the ball with Chicago, Caleb Williams just seems to be compounding this really good play. It seems week after week. There's just gaining a little bit more of that clutch factor in his play. I'm thinking the Bears at home, night game. That's gonna be I'm gonna just assume that's going to be the most exciting game of the weekend, right? So yeah, I'll go with the Bears uh, to pull the upset at home. That's going to do it for episode 16. Again, apologies for the kind of shortened episode for the modified episode where it's kind of just a solo pod with myself. I'm going to work a little bit better to kind of script out things a little bit more versus just kind of working the normal obviously with whenever I have Jacob on, we have a specific style and a specific plan when we're recording. When I'm doing it solo, I can't move stuff around. I can't change up notes. I can't uh, spur some sort of question out of him or anything like that. I only have myself to go off of. So that, obviously I need to script that out a little bit more. So I think I'm going to be doing that in the future. And hopefully these solo episodes will be getting a little better. And they'll still be something really good that we could bring to the table in Jacob's absence until he gets back. But either way, thank you for listening. Appreciate you guys. Subscribing and liking the content as we get down to the end of the season here. Obviously, we're reflecting on this entire season, how episodes have gone so far, what's worked, what hasn't worked, just so we can be better in the off season, and then of course go into the next season with more ideas and more excitement and potentially guests. I'd love to have guests on. So that's something that we're kind of looking forward to as we evolve. For now, we're still, playoff time. We're still not done with this current season yet. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And that's it. I'm out.